This week's recipe is lasagna. So now you'll catch me here mincing some garlic. I'm pushing that aside. So some of the things you're going to need is some chopped meat. I bought 1.5 pounds of 80/20, and you're going to need some mozzarella cheese. You can get it in a brick or you can get it pre-shredded, your choice. You're going to use oven-ready lasagna, no boiling required. Don't judge me. It actually tastes the same, if not better, and it saves 45 minutes. I also use tomato sauce, very plain tomato sauce, 1 can of this as well as a can of crushed tomatoes because I like a little bit of texture to my sauce. As you can see, the only thing in here are tomatoes. You'll be seasoning it yourself. So what you're going to do is, after you're done mincing up your garlic, I used 8 cloves, and I'm going to separate that equally between the meat and the sauce. You're going to dice some onion as well, and that will be separated equally. And once you're done doing that, you're going to saute the onion first, the garlic. You're going to saute some for the meat in a frying pan, and you'll saute some in a pot for the sauce. And let's see exactly what that looks like. The life of being a mom. I stepped away for a couple of minutes and my onions burned. Oh no, it's okay. No one's going to notice. They go right into the meat anyway in the sauce. So what I'm doing is I'm taking half of my garlic and I'm putting it in the pan where I'm going to be cooking my meat. And then I'm taking the other half of the garlic and I'm putting it in the pot where I'm going to do my sauce. I also use a powdered onion and garlic just to enhance the fresh flavors in both the meat and the sauce as well. And some basil, salt, and pepper. I'm also sauteing this onion and garlic in some olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. So now what you're going to do is once they're done sauteing and they look translucent and soft and the garlic's no longer raw, but before you burn it, unlike my mistake, you're going to add your meat into the pan. So now I'm adding my meat into the pan and I'm going to break it up into pieces and I'm going to get it browned up real good. I'm actually going to also add in some onion, garlic powder, just like I had stated before, some salt and pepper, nothing else other than that. So I'm putting my sauce in right now because I kind of want to do them both at the same time. So this way I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. There goes my tomato sauce. I like my lasagna very saucy and very cheesy, so I use 2 cans, and those are 2 28-ounce cans. If you don't like your saucy, cut back on it. So those were the crushed tomatoes I was talking about earlier. I just gives it the sauce more of a thicker texture without having to worry about thickening it up or boiling it and getting to be thicker by a longer process. I always combine the sauce with the crushed tomatoes. Just like it better that way. So I use a different spoon to go in there and just mix around my sauce. Okay, just because I don't want the same spoon for my raw meat going into my sauce. And it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to continue cooking this brown meat. And once it gets a little bit more cooked, I'll add in the seasoning. All right, time to add in the seasoning. Now, of course, as always, I definitely give you the exact amounts. This time around, I'm going to give you the amounts I would give someone who doesn't like a cheesy, extremely cheesy and saucy lasagna, and then I'll put in the way I make it here. Try it the way I make it here first, though. You may like it better this way. It may surprise you. So now what I'm doing is I'm rubbing some dry oregano in between my hands and putting it in the sauce. Very important. I love oregano in sauce. I probably use about a teaspoon of it. Sometimes it depends. I may add in a little more, just like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue cooking the meat. It's just a little bit of a process. It seems long. It's not as long as you think, but continue browning your meat. So what you see me doing here is I'm chopping up some fresh basil. I always include fresh basil in my sauce. I think this name brand of sauce also does a basil version, but I prefer having it fresh and me putting it in there. So now I'm still waiting on my meat to finish cooking. Jeez Louise, it's taking forever. I'm hungry. So again, keep waiting until it gets browned. And then what you're going to want to do is when your meat is fully brown, you're going to strain it because, of course, it's 80/20, so it's going to have a lot of fat reserve in your pan. You don't want to include that into your sauce. And here I go, seasoning again. Just because, I don't know, I like strong flavors in my food. I want to be able to taste it. So, you know, I've never had anyone complain about the seasoning in my lasagna. So if I have, I would have changed it. And I'm going to give you the measurements that I normally would use. And I can almost guarantee you're going to love it. I've done the old switcheroo. I like to have the most important pot next to me since I'm moving on to the next step. I've browned my meat, I've drained the fat, and now we're going to move on to the next step. Finally, I'm starving. The next step here is I decided I wanted to add in some more fresh basil and onion powder, garlic powder. Now here's the surprise for most people. I add sugar in my sauce. I like it. It gives it somewhat of a little bit of a sweet kick to it. Since you're buying plain tomato sauce, it has absolutely no seasoning, so you're going to have to go with what you like. If you don't want to add sugar in your sauce, you don't have to. I'm letting you know that doing so is going to make it taste much better. So let me go in here for a taste because I can't help myself. I know that it tastes good, but I just tend to do this because I'm the type of person who could eat sauce out of a jar, as disgusting as that sounds. I just gave you a thumbs up, but you couldn't see it because I obviously don't know how to put my hand in front of the camera properly. The next step here is adding in the cooked meat. Now, as you can see, it has all that delicious sauteed onion and garlic mixed in with the meat. And once you do this, you're going to let it simmer on the stove anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. I use the sauce so that the pasta doesn't stick to the bottom. And you're just going to spread it evenly over the pan. Let the layering of the lasagna begin. What makes this a little easier is your pasta's not cooked, so you can literally spread your ricotta mixture on this dry pasta without having to worry about it flopping or slipping and sliding at the bottom of your lasagna pan. That's what's always frustrated me about using the pasta where you have to boil. And you see that little space? You're going to want to leave some space. Why? Pasta expands when it cooks. You don't want it folding up onto the side of the dish. You don't want the pasta overlapping. So you just take, I would know, a hefty tablespoon of ricotta cheese and you smear it onto the pasta like it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Pretty self-explanatory, really. As again, I stated earlier that there's an egg in here. It's a binder and it's necessary. So don't leave that part out unless you have another way to bind this ricotta cheese. Because if you don't put the egg in it, what's going to happen is it's going to be soupy. And it's literally going to come out of the lasagna. You don't want that. So while I'm spreading this ricotta, let me explain something. This meat sauce recipe makes about 3/4 extra, and that's with me being extremely generous on my meat topping. I do that simply because this also creates a scenario where throughout the week I have now, a freezer Ziploc bag full of pasta sauce with meat in it that I can throw onto some spaghetti. Another night, where I don't feel like cooking, I don't have to make any sauce homemade. It's really a win-win situation. So, we're going to take our meat mixture, okay, and you're going to evenly disperse it onto each pasta sheet. Again, you're leaving space, as you can see, in between pasta sheet for it to expand. Now, the important step here is that when you're putting your meat sauce on the pasta sheets, you're going to want to make sure that the corners, meaning left upper corner, right upper corner, bottom left, bottom right, is covered with the meat sauce, and I'll explain why. If it has no liquid on top of the corners, there's no way for that pasta to properly cook. So that means the middle part of your lasagna is going to be properly cooked, but your corners are going to be hard, and that's disgusting. Nobody wants hard corners on their lasagna. So you don't necessarily have to go out to the edges of the sides of the pasta because when the pasta expands, it'll cook that way. But make sure that you bring the meat sauce all the way to the corners. It's really important that you do that. So here's my favorite part, the cheese. As I told you earlier, I love a meaty, cheesy lasagna, and I don't know, there's no other way to enjoy it, Of course, you can cut back on the meat because, like I said, I have extra sauce, even with being, as you can see, very generous with the meat. And I feel like it needs to be that way because when you're eating lasagna, if you don't have a lot of meat in there and a lot of cheese, it kind of just tastes like pasta with sauce, right? So it kind of defeats the purpose. So what you're going to do is here, once you layer your cheese on the top, you're going to start all over from the beginning. You're going to take out another pasta sheet. You're going to get your ricotta cheese on there, and you're going to put it on the top. And you're going to continue doing this until you get to your last layer. On to the last layer, as you can see here, I'm putting my cheese on the top. And if you tell me that doesn't look delicious, I would really question whether or not you're legally blind because I can eat it just like that. Raw pasta and everything. Probably not. I'm exaggerating. But it's delicious. So what you're going to do is now you're going to get a piece of aluminum foil the size of your lasagna pan. You're going to grease it. And it's important to grease it because once you cover your lasagna, you don't want the aluminum foil to stick to your cheese when it's bubbling up and cooking in the oven. And then when you take off your aluminum foil, all your cheese is on the aluminum foil. Please grease it. Don't forget. Pop it into the oven. Let's cook this bad boy. A delicious lasagna. Now tell me you don't want to jump right in and take a swim in that tomato sauce. Look at the meat bubbling through the cheese. I mean, this recipe is an easier version that doesn't lose quality of taste. You're all really going to love it. And if you try the recipe, take some pictures, share them with me. Share this video, subscribe to my channel, like the video, send comments, do everything. I really appreciate it, and thank you all for watching. Bye.